Welcome to this very special interview with Coinversations, John and Landon. We've got a special guest with us today, Thomas van der Spuy. He's a passionate collector over the years and he's also the founder of the South African Coin Collectors Club. Welcome, Thomas.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be here, Landon. Nice to be here, John.
Yeah, good to see you. So obviously Thomas, as many of you know, would be basically the president of the Coin Club. How would you put it?
Just a fellow collector doing
A
something.
fellow collector of the South African Coin Collectors Club. So today obviously we're going to go through Thomas's journey, get to know him and understand why he is part of the numismatic world in South Africa. So where did it start for Thomas van der Spuy? I remember hearing a story about a newspaper article.
Yeah, so my journey started at the age of 7. In Mount Strand on the beach, I picked up a 1935 Union halfpenny. It made front page newspaper, the local newspaper, and that was kind of the first journey into coins. From there onwards, I used to pick up old sinkers on the beach with my dad, melt them down and take them to a local Portuguese fish and chip shop where the uncle paid me in old decimal coins that I could only use on these game arcades. And that's kind of where I started collecting the different presidents and trying to improve the coins. But the bug only really hit at about age 10. I discovered a bunch of coins in an old cabinet that belonged to my grandfather, which no one in the family knew it was there. It was hidden in an old cabinet, ZR coins, and that's kind of where the serious interest in ZR sparked. And since 10, 11 years old, it's been a lifelong collecting journey.
That's awesome. I know for Landon, I started with 1952 5 shilling. That was our first coins. Now, from the age of 10, so a very young start to your collecting journey. As it progressed, of course, as a 10-year-old, you don't really have the finances always to buy the things, but when did it really become something you really got an interest in and said, listen, I want to do this?
So, even early on, there was this interest. At about 13 years old, I was buying a lot of coins. You could buy them still raw, ungraded, on bid or buy. In the early days, I remember buying a lot from when Pierre Mercier started selling on bid or buy. You had Kobe Venter, and I used to buy the coins ungraded and then grade them myself with NGC. And that kind of just progressed. It was still much easier than it is today to find top quality coins on the internet. It was kind of the birth of the digital era for coins in South Africa, and it was people selling them online, ungraded, and if you had a good nick, good eye, spot good coins, you could buy really good quality grades, and that kind of helped me through the high school years to find a lot of things. So through buying and selling of coins, buying, grading, selling of coins, that's how I funded the early days of the collection. And I made quite a lot of progress in the collection in those early periods from around 1998 to 2005.
So talking about grading coins, how difficult was that around that time? And then would you get lucky? So on bid or buy, you're buying these ungraded coins and you think the condition's bad. Is there a story of one specific coin that you remember?
So what helped for me, early on I did the American Numismatic Association's grading course. I did that in the US. That helped a lot to understand the basics. And still today I apply that. I always focus on the high point of the coins. So for ZR, the most easiest is Kruger's hair. I always look at Kruger's hair. It tells you the immediate story. It wasn't as much the basics of grading it was important, but in the early days it was more how good of a quality the picture is, because the picture quality of the listing online made it really difficult. So that's especially where Kruger's hair helped a lot, because even though the picture might not be great, you could still define the hairlines of Kruger's hair, and that was kind of how I was always looking for coins online.
Yeah. And we're talking now about obviously the first coin being a union coin, the second decimal. So where did it really start with the ZAR coins?
So as I said, I found all of these old ZAR coins in an old cabinet of my grandfather. It had many secret compartments. As kids we would play and try and take them apart, and must have been about 30-40 secret compartments in this cabinet. And it was during one of these exercises where we came across some ZR coins. It wasn't a lot of ZR coins, but believe it or not, there was a Feldmont in it. Now back then, that's
Are you sure you looked at every drawer in this cabinet?
Well, I still have the cabinet today. I thought, my son and I just, completely break it apart. There might be some more secret compartments. But you can imagine back then, the ZR coin was its price of a new car. It was a significant find. Luckily, my dad, he never sold it. He never did it. He just kept it. And it's still today in my collection.
That's very special.
Wow. And you know the story of where the Feldbahn came from? Like your grandfather bought it? Or
No. So my grandfather, obviously he's passed away. He passed away a year after I was born. But my grandmother had no idea. He was never a coin collector. And no one knew about the coins in the cabinet.
That's pretty special.
Imagine just buying a cabinet and there might be coins in it. Could just been like a...
I heard there was a time when people bought old pianos because they would hide their Krugerrands and stuff in the old
Very
pianos.
true. I remember as well buying one day an old book cabinet, on an auction years ago, and we found a little book, Papa Baboon, and inside of it there was an artist drawing of Pioneer. He wrote drew the Papa Baboon inside of this book. I still have that book, so these things do come out from time to time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, when you started, obviously there was a lot of difficulties, and as you've mentioned it as well, that we've gone into a modern era where technology has come to the forefront of numismatics, so it's been made much easier. Talking about the South African Coin Collectors Club and how this has come to be established. You are the one that with the idea, and what pushed you to actually start this new club?
So a few things. I must say it was always an idea to do something or give something back to a hobby that has given so much to me. The friendships and just that I want other people to experience what numismatics can offer you. So that's one. The second one is I was heavily involved in the Western Cape Numismatic Society, or tried to be, but I couldn't really live the vision. And by doing the South African Coin Collectors Club, it gives me my own playground, my own playbook, to shape it the way I see fit, which gives me a lot of freedom. And one of the biggest reasons is probably my best school friend, lifelong friend. He started coin collecting, and for me that always understood anything and everything about coins. It's really difficult to step back into the shoes of a new collector. And I do feel as new collectors, you feel the excitement of the hobby, you buy anything and everything, and you have to face scrupulous dealers out there on every single angle, scams online, and you're left all by yourself. You have no way to turn. You go onto the internet and there's so much information, but it's all over the show. One site will tell you a Mandela 5 Rand is worth millions, for example. So having a club where you can feel welcome, I think is really important, to create a community and a society where you can take a new collector, bring him in, make him feel at home, and help him to just get to the next level of the hobby, where from there onwards he can sustain himself in this wonderful hobby of coin collecting.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, I think about how many new collectors make a lot of mistakes by buying, stuff too expensive, or, like you said about some of the dealers that could potentially overprice or take advantage of people not knowing. So the Coin Club gives all of that information, and people are a lot more educated quicker, right? Which is obviously...
Yes, so they've got a community where they can bounce ideas off. They don't feel like they're on their own in this hobby. And as well as the advancement of online auctions in South Africa in numismatics, which I'm a huge fan of. So I'm seeing this hobby now going from where we were looking at a Hearn's handbook as a guide for pricing into this digital era where we now can look at what coins are actually selling for on the marketplace in a fair, free, open market between willing buyer, willing seller. And I think over the next few years this is going to reshape numismatics in South Africa completely. as well as make coin collecting much more liquid. And that brings a complete different change in the way that we assemble collections, because now we can assemble collections not only from passion but also from an investment point of view.
Yes, and speaking about it, so this is the Hearns catalogue. It has been the backbone of South African numismatics for many, many years, compiled with all the coins that have ever been minted in South Africa, with the mintages and numismatic values attached to it. Now, Thomas, the South African Coin Collectors Club has done something very special with the Hearns catalogue, haven't they?
Yes. So it's very important. Hearns catalogue. It's kind of seen as the Bible of South African numismatics. Not as much on pricing for me, but more on research, understanding.
Yes.
What could potentially be rare. Just getting information on any coin you want, and a very quick guide on that. And it's super important to get the Hearns catalogue as quick as possible into the hands of new collectors. And that's why I'm very proud to say that every South African Coin Collectors Club member has immediate access to the Hearns catalogue now in his pocket, on the go, whenever he needs to. So if he sees last minute something online, he can immediately go to the Hearns catalogue, which has never really been possible before. And I also understand the frustrations of having to phone a fellow collector to quickly get information out of the Hearns catalogue because I don't have it with me.
Yeah.
So it's very important for me to have that catalogue in the hands of collectors.
So a lot of changes, I would say. Obviously, being in the numismatic industry and the coin industry, I've been collecting, since I was 12, 13, but I've only really been in for the last 2 or 3 years, and I've seen so many changes of things already. So, the difference between you starting in the industry and now, there's so many changes, things happening quickly. Ultimately, what does that mean for the industry? Even with like the Coin Club, long term, is there a vision of having a certain amount of members, or what's the goal kind of?
So the goal is to take this hobby and take it into the 21st century, catch up to what modern numismatics are doing across the world, like for instance the American Numismatic Association. South Africa is small, but I believe we're big enough for that. There is also a bigger financial gain out of this, and an explanation I like to give is that there's a lot of coins in old collectors' hands that over the next 10 years is going to transition into new collectors, and ultimately at the end of the day it comes down to supply and demand.
Yes.
And you can never get away from that, and if supply disappears or demand disappears, then prices will fall. And the last thing I would like to see for this hobby is to follow what I believe something has happened, like for instance stamp collecting. And making people more aware of the hobby, the excitement of it, as well as giving them foundation. I believe that will take the hobby into the next generation of coin collectors. And also by growing the collector base, it will also allow us to expand the hobby so much more further, more opportunities, more things that we can build, more things that we can achieve. So for the Coin Collectors Club, it's important for me to grow that base. The stronger the base becomes, the bigger things that we as a community can achieve. For instance, it's the dream at the end of this year to have our own coin show.
Yes.
So that's something I'm really working hard with the team on to get over the line, and we potentially have 1 or 2 big projects that we can take on with the South African Mint. And this is all possible through a growing membership base. Without that, it won't be possible.
No. I just want to say, there's so much in numismatics in South Africa that, it's incredible stories, people that have been part of numismatics, long before I even got involved, decades and decades before. But it's so important to then use all of that knowledge and everything to focus on the future. And I think that's what the Coin Club is doing with the innovation of the Hearn catalogue, obviously being online, all these things. So that's exciting for me, because we can talk about stuff that happened 20 or 50 years ago, but it doesn't really mean much if we can't take that forward. Like you said, the hobby could end up like what happened with stamps, and I think the right people make sure that doesn't happen. So I like that future type of focus of it.
So this is also the idea of many old and big numismatists in South Africa. I think where it slightly changes with South African Coin Collectors Club is that, in a way, I always felt like a lot of societies in South Africa focused on existing numismatists. Papers that are written, articles that are written, is more focused towards them, and it takes a lot of patience and passion in a way to deal with new collectors.
Yeah.
Sometimes they might ask what, for an experienced numismatist, be a stupid question, but it's not really a stupid question, and it's very important, again, like I say, to assist new collectors in the hobby, and there's nothing more beautiful to share the story of numismatics with a passionate new collector and see the excitement in his eyes. It's something beautiful. I still get the thrill of finding a rare coin or finding a missing coin in my collection.
Yeah, an amazing initiative that the South African Coin Collectors Club has already put in place is the Coin Collector. So this was launched at the Johannesburg Coin Show, and it will be hopefully a quarterly issue. But it's not just about coins, and it's the beauty of what we're discussing here. It's actually about the whole community as a whole. Who's in it, who plays which role, and a fantastic initiative also on the WhatsApp group. So if you've not joined the South African Coin Collectors Club, please do so. But the Collector's Pulse, giving us a monthly update as to what is happening in the market that very month. And the last issue, Thomas, was fantastic for me to read what was happening that very month. It was awesome.
Yeah, so it's what a professional hobby needs, our own magazine, our newsletter, which, if you really look at the last month's newsletter, that within itself is almost a magazine.
It is. It was awesome.
So the WhatsApp community, there's a lot of initiatives coming out this month. For instance, we will have the launch of the registry, which for the first time new collectors can now compete. And maybe just to touch on that registry, what's beautiful about the registry is that you can compete within year sets or type sets. So for instance, you can take your birth year, you can buy an Ankh pack, you can have that graded, and you can really compete, for instance, on your birth year with other collectors in South Africa. And the beauty of that is that you can be the #1 collector in a category for as little as 1,000 Rand. And that's the excitement of something like a registry. And then as well, pushing, for instance, SANGS, which I have a big passion for. As many would know, SANGS was my brainchild. I started SANGS. I ran SANGS for the first 2 years before selling it off. It's very important for South Africa to have that local grading services. And with Dario and the team there now, I have a really good relationship. It's their business, but I really like to push them, and I like to push dealers as well to come to the forefront in this hobby. If you can see societies across South Africa doing more, dealers doing more, everyone in this hobby doing more, this is how we all work together to grow the hobby. And I hope that the South African Coin Collectors Club can be that foundation and the leader in the industry to push everyone to take this hobby forward and grow it.
Yeah, I think that's quite exciting. Obviously focusing on so much, and for us obviously being involved with the Coin Club, we also get to see so many things. Tomorrow, for example, we have that Gauteng meeting, and we have so many things that we're doing, and all these people that we're seeing. I mean, later in the month, I know we spoke about a secret, or not secret, but a interesting meeting happening in July. You're talking about all these the coin potential show for the Coin Club. It's like there's always something happening, whether it's the competitions, whether it's people meeting up, and I think that makes it exciting. It makes it a community. It makes you part of it, and that's missing.
There's a lot of moving parts, and for me, from the grassroots up. In our local communities, I want collectors to get together. It's really important. That's why, like you said, tomorrow night, the Gauteng meetup. At the end of this week, there's a meetup in Cape Town. The meetup is being planned now in Bloemfontein. Soon KZN will come. Gauteng obviously is the biggest, most active province in the country, and that's where we put the most work in. But I would like to see the collectors get together everywhere. And the hobby is strong when collectors become friends and they get together. And then there's many other exciting things like the sands grading competition, for instance.
Yes.
And we've been planning a lot towards this 22nd of July. It is a big event in Gauteng. We've kind of dropped little clues and hints, and maybe I should drop another hint. So we already know the date's the 22nd of July. There's been a blurred picture shared. We know there's going to be an Afrikaans artist. So what clue can we... Well, why don't we just announce the venue? All right, we can do that. So the venue for the 22nd of July is going to be Gold Reef City.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
I wonder if there's a reason for going to the Mint. What do you think?
Wow, there's a blurred picture. There must be a reason. So, but the guys would need to keep a lookout on the WhatsApp group for the next clues to come. It's going to be an amazing evening.
And something I'm looking forward to, and just talking about, because as we said, when we started collecting, you feel quite lonesome. No one understands coins, like, oh, you do coins, you know. Even as a dealer at the time, it was like, you do mint, like, how weird is that? But now with the community, I must say, one of the highlights of my year was the Berlin World Money Fair. And there's a delegation already planning to go next year. The Berlin Money Fair. So,
for those that don't know, the World Money Fair in Berlin is the largest coin show in the world. So, about 2 years ago, there's a long story, I didn't make it. I was going to board the plane, but I didn't make it. So this year was my first time attending, and I knew it's going to be big. But nothing could have prepared me for what I've seen in Berlin. It was incredible. And for anyone that's attended a coin show in South Africa, you can imagine about 30 times the size. And when you're dealing with something that big, and a coin show in South Africa is already difficult to get through the entire coin show in one day. It is literally impossible to get through the World Money Fair in Berlin in 3 days. This year, it was an incredible group. There's stunning story about Berlin. I'll be telling at the Gauteng meetup tomorrow night.
Yes.
But with that said, we have a dedicated WhatsApp group. There's about 30 odd people on it now. Highly recommend it if you're looking for a breakaway holiday, want to meet friends. You literally walk away from the biggest coin show in the world and lifelong friends, because we do become so close as a community during a trip like that. And like I said, reach out, join the WhatsApp group, plan with us, and come join us at the 2027 World Money Fair, because I literally can't wait for it.
I can't wait.
And thinking about calling numismatics and coin collecting a hobby, a hobby in my mind is also not meant to be enjoyed by yourself. And you're not meant to sit in a room with your coins and no one else ever sees it. Yes. And that's what, going to a Berlin Money Fair, having these Gauteng meetups, it brings people together, understanding why people are collecting. Because everyone has a different story. For me, my grandmother was influential in it. Everyone's got something that's meaningful to them, sentimental to them, that got them into this hobby. So I think that's all it really is, that makes it more exciting.
But community is everything. Even if you think about, I like to play golf, and my golf buddies have become my friends. So many times in life, your hobbies, which is so important to have in life, you have friends within those hobbies. And in coin collecting, it's really difficult. Like you said, when you start out, you know no one. And getting collectors together regionally, that's very important. So having coin shows, having meetups, making friends, having a WhatsApp community to bounce off. There's just over the few months with the South African Coin Collectors Club, there's been people I've been WhatsApping indirectly. We've literally become WhatsApp collectors friends. Some of them will be meeting tomorrow night for the first time. I literally can't wait, but it feels like we're already friends. And this is what something like this community is giving to collectors, and it's very important in the hobby to have that.
And something I've really been enjoying, and even the people we haven't met, but is the family meeting on Sunday evenings, watching the auction. I've been loving that.
So yes, obviously Besanis runs the Sunday auctions, which is the more premium auctions. It's kind of where I spend most of my time. I'm very passionate. It's the highlight of the numismatic week for me, and I kind of joke around on the Coin Collectors Club. It's a family meetup, and the team at Pisani's have been amazing. They're very professional. I've reached out to them to ask for so many favors, and they never disappoint. They are always there to give back to the hobby, which for me I really appreciate. There's many other dealers as well, and I would like to reach out to all the dealers and say get involved with the South African Coin Collectors Club like Pisani's. I've also pushed Pisani's quite hard, especially in getting their auctions live, because I would love to see the auctions live on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, because that just makes the hobby go wild. More people can actually see what's going on. And like I said earlier, the auctions is very important for me because it set market prices. It allows people to understand what coins are worth. It's for us to go do price discovery. So I'm a huge fan of the online auctions.
I do also just want to focus, for selfish reasons on Thomas the collector, and just ask a few questions in terms of, let's say, what was the first coin that you remember buying that really was like, wow, I'm so proud that I own this coin. What's your favorite coin in your collection? Why is it your favorite coin?
So one of the biggest coins I remember back in the day, personally, was, I must have been about 18 years old. Obviously been collecting for some years by then, and it was a top pop 1892 penny. I remember Anthony Govender emailing me about this coin. I don't know, back then it felt like it was the way collectors communicated. It was still via email, very professional. And Anthony offered this coin. It was at a price, no chance I can afford this. And the next week a parcel arrived, and there the coin was. And I reached out to Anthony and I said to Anthony, hey, I don't understand. I told you I can't afford it. He's like, this coin belongs in your collection, and you can pay me off in the months and years to come. And over a period of about a year, I paid that coin off. And that sense of trust between collectors, I have the highest respect for Anthony Govender as a numismatist, one of the most brilliant minds in South African numismatics, and I think it's something that, you talk about that first big coin, it must be that one. My favorite coin in the collection, there's so many. It's really difficult to choose a favorite one. I think the 1896 Tiki in gold, that's special. The Brockage Pond, that's a very, very special coin. And then there's many other ZR coins, which is literally, can't really say part of the normal series, but they're one-of-ones, which they're all very, very special. I must also say the Top Pop Veldpond, it comes from the Cry collection, which was also the owner of the Single 9. That's a very special piece. My 1898 Sammy Marks Tiki, which is the second best, but it has the Marks Mason's pedigree. So it comes from the family's personal collection. Also a very special piece in the collection.
I want to ask, what happened to that Veldpond that you found?
I still have it in
You
my
still have
collection.
it?
Yes.
I was wondering if you traded it for the pin.
It is graded today, yes.
Great.
It's graded at MS63.
Wow! Finding a Veldpond in your cabinet. If you're at home and there's a cabinet you haven't opened in a few weeks or months, maybe try to check it out. That's an incredible story, and obviously a coin you wouldn't sell. That's sentimental.
It's got a story to it, and touching on that, the story in numismatics is everything. The story behind the coins. Sometimes, I take for instance ZR collecting for me is understanding the war history, what happened during that era, and it kind of fascinates you and makes you more interested in the coins. But the ZR coins did allow me, or the passion for those coins did allow me to fully understand the ZR story, the ZR history. And that's an incredible story, an incredible history.
Yeah, I actually have a question here as we're coming to the end here. We spoke about the history of the coins, but you mentioned and alluded to the provenance. Sometimes you have to speak about the collectors themselves that held that history for us, and it's something we're learning a lot about, is actually those collections and what the pedigrees mean.
So the story is everything. It's, for instance, the single 9. Why is the single 9 the single 9? Why is it the crown jewel of African numismatics? You know, and you can try and put yourself into the Boer shoes. Think about that era. The British has invaded the Boers. They said they conquered the Boers. And out of desperation and showing to the world that we're still a sovereign nation, they couldn't strike 1899 coinage because the dies were intercepted in a cloak and dagger operation in Delagoa Bay. So they came up with this idea to strike the coin, and they invited the US Consulate General, Macron, and in front of him struck the single 9, handed to him with amazing paperwork, and showing to the US, look, this is our coinage, we are still a sovereign nation. Then you look at that story, how Macron went via the UK back to Ohio, and the coin disappeared. And then all of a sudden, it pops up in 1954 in the King Farouk sale. And here, the King of Egypt held this coin. What happened and how it got there, you know, I've tried everything to look for those answers, and it's probably something we'll never be able to answer. But all that documentation is still with that coin. And it's a fascinating story. And that story provenance is what gives a coin its value, in my opinion. And the same why, for instance, a Veldpond is a Veldpond.
Yes.
Just to give advice to some people that are new to coin collecting, you know, you talk about the ZR coins and the love that you have for it. You know, would you suggest someone to obviously research all the stories and stuff and figure out what they want to collect, something specific? Or do you think, you know, a bit of everything is better?
Yeah, in the beginning you're going to buy a lot of things, and you're going to figure out, you know, kind of where your passion sits. And you know, things that I would say is always try and buy the best quality coin that you can afford. Top-ups is a different game. It becomes really, really expensive. But again, you know, 200 Rand might fit your budget. For the next person, it might be 20,000 Rand. So you buy the best quality that your budget can allow. Then I would say start off with small little series, like for instance do the ZR pennies, or just the 1892 set, or just the 1897 set. And for me, what I wish I knew early on in collecting was to not, you know, be more patient. At this stage I was never, any collector's got that problem in the beginning. So today I think I've got my primary collection, which I'm very patient about it. It takes time, but then you kind of always need that little spark or hunt or thing to take you back to the auction sites to keep looking for it. So for me, that is the Silver Krugerrand and the Silver Krugerrand series. So it's something I can constantly scan the auction pages and see what's online available and try and fill that gap. So I always have a little, call it like a book of coins that I need, that I can quickly reference what I'm looking for. And having that, you know, kind of a common collection, it just fills that little need. Because when you're collecting on the serious, like high-end side of ZR, those top-ups don't come on the market every day. And sometimes I could wait months, if not years, to find a single coin. And you know, that kind of can become frustrating as well.
So it's very fascinating when you actually start finding something that you really want to collect, and that thrill is something amazing. So recently I just started collecting the 2.5 shillings, and being focused on one series, I mean that excitement really does stir again. So really I recommend, as you said, finding what it is you're passionate about,
yes.
and then collecting that.
100%, and it can be anything. Like for instance, getting just a random coin from each country, and having a list. You can go to a flea market, or just go through a bunch of loose coins somewhere and just, you tick off that one country you haven't found. Recently, for instance, living in Mauritius, I started with the Mauritian notes, which I kind of enjoy. I also do the Ura, which is a fun series for me. And another one that I recently started was African specimen notes. So I'm trying to put a specimen note together from each African country.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's challenging, but now for going to like a banknote fair, which is my plan in the future, now there's something I can go do there. And it's constantly little things or little collections I'm trying to build, which makes it fun. So it's not, although everyone knows me as ZR, I probably have one of the most craziest note collections as well. And just having constantly these things to collect.
It makes it fun, it makes it new, different.
Yes.
And I mean, there's that hunt obviously for specific stuff. So talking about a coin that you might have gotten, that you would say was like one of the most difficult coins to get, or maybe even a coin that you still don't have, that you think like, you...
So in 1974, Elie Levine, he displayed his entire ZR collection, and in his book he makes a note of that he was 6 coins missing, I think 5 or 6 coins missing from completing the collection in mint state, and he said it's impossible to complete a ZR collection in mint state. So today, because of coin grading, we know that it's possible for 4 full mint state collections to be assembled, because of the 93 shilling and 93 half pound, because in 93 shilling there's only 4 in mint state.
Wow.
So that became like my obsession. I want to achieve this, and the 1895 1 shilling was not the most rarest in mint state, but it was the last coin I needed to complete the collection in mint state to achieve that. And for years and years on end, that coin just never hit the market. And ever since completing the collection in mint state, the last 2 years, I've probably seen about 10 of these mint state shillings that come along. So it's sometimes so strange how it works. You can wait years for an opportunity, and then all of a sudden the coin just hits the market 1 or 2 times. But when you're looking at seriously rare numismatics, sometimes you only have once in a lifetime opportunity to acquire that. So if it does come your way, know that if it's special to you, it's special to a lot of other collectors as well. And having your eyes and ears on the ground, having the collectors, the relationship with the dealers, super important. It's probably been one of my strongest advantages in this hobby, is having a good relationship with dealers. When I do a transaction with a dealer, I do the transaction in record time, and I complete that transaction to its liking, because then dealers appreciate dealing with you. And when something big comes along, sometimes you get first bite at the pie. You get offered that coin first, and that's all relationships in this hobby.
I just want to mention that, like, your relationship with dealers, the trust in this relationship is like no other. When it comes to, like you mentioned with Anthony Governor, the relationships and the trust that they put in each other and say, listen, because there's always a bit of wiggle room, or like can you please do me this favor, can you do this for me? And that's the beauty of numismatics, is if people know you're looking for this or you've got this, you help each other out, and it's really cool to see how everyone helps each other out with their collections.
Well, I think it's part of it. Remember, you're hunting. Yes. You're constantly looking for something. So it's almost like a business. A business must market itself. So as a collector, if you're a serious collector, you kind of have to market what you're looking for, because otherwise you're leaving it to chance to find it randomly in the marketplace. But something can pop up and another collector has bought that item even before you've seen it. So putting it out there, this is what I collect, it helps a lot in achieving your goals in what you are collecting. Other collectors and dealers associate that with you. For instance, ZAR is associated with me, and it's almost unlikely today that a top dealer in the country will get a top ZAR numismatic piece and randomly sell it without first reaching out to me. And that's that advantage I talk about, having that first bite at the pie. It doesn't mean you're getting a bargain, but it does mean that you might have an opportunity in front of another collector, and it's part of the hunt. That's how you do it successful when you're going to build a serious collection.
And talking about the coin club and coin collecting as a hobby, how healthy do you think? I look at so many different companies and a lot of younger people getting into the industry, and maybe there's a bit of more excitement, now compared to 5 or 10 years ago. How healthy do you think the hobby is?
Now, with the advancement of the South African Coin Collectors Club, the foundation is there. I think we're at a very healthy stage. We're at a very early stage. The club with the registry coming along, auctions maturing in South Africa, coin shows picking up, and things like Pisani is pushing live auctions out onto social media. I think we are literally at a turning point in this hobby, and I do expect over the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years that you can expect tremendous growth in this hobby. More buyers, more collectors, and I really do think there's a turning point. If you do kind of look in the past of the hobby, we did really well. South African numismatics was on a very strong growth path towards around 2010, 11. Unfortunately, I do believe that the release of a lot of the commemorative 5 rand coins into circulation has damaged the hobby a lot. That, as well as what I like to call more suitcase dealing, with so many people just popping up and being dealers, taking opportunity and advantage of collectors, both on buying from collectors and selling to collectors. And with the advancement of auction houses, it becomes more and more difficult for dealers to do these practices with collectors. So I do think we're at an enormous turning point in the hobby in the next few years to come, and there's going to be a lot of benefit for a lot of collectors.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas, for your time here. It has been fantastic, and you've heard it first. South African numismatics, we believe, is on the rise, and there's so many exciting prospects lying ahead with the South African Coin Collectors Club. So if you've enjoyed this video, stay tuned, go join the South African Coin Collectors Club, and we'll see you on the next episode.